I want to talk to you about the Bose S1, which is an amazing speaker for acoustic guitar gigs that I recently got to test drive. The S1 has two separate channels. It's got one for guitar and one for microphone. And there's a third channel you can use for a looper or for backing tracks that you can access by Bluetooth or through a 1/8 inch input. And the S1 is actually portable and rechargeable for up to 11 hours. So the guitar and mic channels, they have separate independent tone, volume, and reverb controls. And they also have something called a proprietary tone match switch, which EQs, optimizes, and restores the natural sound of your acoustic guitar, which, as you know, is typically your biggest problem when you're playing acoustic amps. I tested the S1 speaker, and it's very responsive to pickups, and the tone, volume, and reverb controls genuinely work great. You can position the S1 four different ways. You can tilt it back to broadcast out to an audience, or you can put it horizontally, vertically, or on a stand. The S1 also has a proprietary Bose accelerometer, which automatically adjusts the EQ and optimizes the sound based on whichever one of these four positions you're using. So effectively, you have an acoustic guitar amp, a PA, and a killer Bluetooth speaker all in one. So the bottom line is, if you're an acoustic player, there's absolutely nothing out there that sounds this good and this big, that's portable and battery powered. And the S1 also happens to be the best Bluetooth speaker Bose makes, which says a lot. I used it myself for a party we had here one night, and it was absolutely amazing. All my kids were freaking out. It's like having a full stereo system out on your patio. You can easily use this for DJing, tailgating, or whatever you want. Before this, you'd have to spend thousands of dollars on a bunch of equipment to get the same thing the S1 does. On top of that, it's sleek and it looks great, just like all Bose devices do. And besides whatever money back guarantee you get from wherever you buy the S1, Bose also warranties the S1 for 2 years from any kind of defects in materials or performance. For more information and to find out where to get your own S1, I'd like you to go to pro.bose.com/podcast. Check it out at pro.bose.com/podcast and get the S1. It's outstanding. This is an important announcement for anyone who wants to advertise here on Everyone Loves Guitar. Over the last 9 months alone, we've had 425,000 more downloads, added over 25,000 monthly listens, and grown our YouTube subscriber base by 72 times. During this time, we've kept our advertising rates consistent, but we will be increasing rates on January 1st. So if you're a business looking to generate new leads or increase your cash flow by picking up new clients or customers, or if you're a label looking to promote new music, then listen up. For information on advertising on Everyone Loves Guitar, fill in the short form at everyonelovesguitar.com/advertise. Again, that's everyonelovesguitar.com/advertise. Even if you want to advertise next year, you'll get to lock into marketing your product or service at the current rates before rates go up at the end of this year. If you want to buy or sell a home or investment property and you're here in the Tampa Bay area, in Hillsborough, Pinellas, or Pasco counties, then listen up. West Florida Real Estate is a local residential real estate broker that's helped over 250 Bay Area homeowners buy and sell their properties in the last 4 years alone. If you're looking to sell, you'll want to get their free report, The 7 Biggest Mistakes Homeowners Make When Hiring a Realtor. And if you're looking to buy a property, you definitely want to get your hands on the 21 Most Expensive Mistakes Tampa Home Buyers Make When Buying a Home. Each one of these reports is going to save you time and money. Inside, you'll discover the 7 most important things to consider when hiring a realtor, what to do if you're buying and selling a home at the same time, and the danger of choosing a realtor who agrees with everything you say. To get your hands on these free reports, head on over to westfloridarealestate.com. That's westfloridarealestate.com. Hey, this is Craig. If you like this show and you want to support it and you want to keep it free, head on over to everyonelovesguitar.com/support. That's everyonelovesguitar.com/support. Hey, everybody, this is Craig Garber. Welcome to Everyone Loves Guitar. We've got a special guest flown in from LA via Buffalo today with my man Steve Pfister. A couple of quick announcements. Number one, Mario Bifrali, thank you very much for hooking us up. We appreciate it, Mario from Godin. Also, go to everyonelovesguitar.com/subscribe, and you can subscribe to the show on iTunes and also the YouTube channel. And last thing, Santana, Carlos Santana, Joe Walsh. If you can connect me with those guys, I'm really interested in having both of those guys on the show. Let's get into Steve Pfister. Steve's performed and recorded with John Kay and Steppenwolf, Bon Jovi, King Cobra, Quiet Riot, Pat Travers, Joe Satriani, Steve Vai, Michael DeBar, Stu Hamm, Jack Casady, one of my favorite bass players, Tommy Two-Tone, Walter Trout, Yngwie, and others. He served as musical MD and guitarist for Lita Ford on her worldwide tours, and he's currently featured in the guitar documentary Blood, Frets, and Tears, which, if you haven't seen that, it's a really good movie. It's a very, in fact, that's kind of like where I first found Steve. And then I was, I don't know, I think Mario, I think I saw you maybe on the Godin page, and I said, you know what, man? And you kept coming up in my Facebook feed because I guess we have a lot of people in common, right? And I said, who's this dude? And I saw you in the movie, and I'm like, and then I saw you on Mario, and it's like when I keep seeing, you know, the universe is like, here's this guy, I'm like, okay, you know, let me talk to him. Anyway, Steve's produced 10 solo records of his own, including Live Bullets, which reached #2 on the European blues charts. His 2017 release, called the Steve Pfister Electro Acoustic Band, was well received and resulted in the trio touring through Europe to packed houses. The band performed at the Live House in Hollywood for Steve Vai's Jamathon in front of 500,000 online viewers. They've played over 300 shows, including support tours with Joe Satriani, Walter Trout, and Y&T. And I checked out Steve's, another one of his last records called Let It Slide. Great record. We'll talk about that in a bit. His compositions have been featured on HBO, ABC, NBC, VH1, MTV, Showtime, Howard Stern Show, and the History Channel, and he's also featured in the video game Rock Band, and he is the youngest looking 35-year-old I've had on this show. Anyway, dude, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. Man,
I've been wanting to do the show for a long time, and it's a total pleasure to meet you and talk to you.
Thank you, man. Likewise. How'd you first get started, like, in the music business? Like, what was your first big break, and what were you doing, like, right before that?
You know, I grew up in Buffalo, New York, and I had some really, really great guitar teachers when I was a kid. And I basically started playing high schools, colleges. Back then you could have a fake ID, and I played with all the older guys, you know, so I had the long hair and the whole bit, and I would get in the clubs and, you know, hide a little bit, then play the gigs. And it was just a great place because there's so much live music to be had. And then of course, the next step was working at the local music store and started teaching. So I started actually having students from 12 years old on, you know, when I was 12 years old.
Wow.
And it just gave me a lot of opportunities. As I was just thinking about it, the guy who hired me, a really great guy, Ed Bentley, he would let me run the store. I'm 12, 13 years old. Behind the counter at 12 and 13, and till 9 o'clock at night. I'm the only guy in the store, you know, and I'd have the alarm.
Serious?
Honest to God. So I think I can officially say that I skipped teenage. I never really had one. I just went boom, right up.
So you just, wow, that's wild. Did he have a drug habit? Because that's like the only way I can imagine putting my hands in your store. And nothing against you, of course, a 12-year-old, man. That's pretty, like, wow.
Either that or I was mega responsible. I don't know. You know, one of the two.
Well, I'm sure you're responsible to be doing that. What was your first break? Like what, like, you know, that you'd consider your first big break or just big opportunity?
Well, the first big opportunity was, I moved from Buffalo when I was 17. I graduated high school a year early, and I couldn't get into England. They wouldn't let you immigrate. New York City was way too cold. I thought, well, you know, I knew if I wanted to have a career in music, I could play clubs in Buffalo until, you know, forever, and really just not really go where I wanted to go, what my desires were. So sold a car, bought a van, drove my skinny ass to Los Angeles, California.
Did you really? At 17?
At 17, I never moved away from my first time. You know, just went out here and Well, hell, I've been here pretty much ever since, but that was quite an adventure for
Yeah, that's right.
17 years.
So obviously you're smart. If you graduated high school a year early, so intellectually you're smart. Was your parents supportive of that move and of you becoming a musician in general?
They were a little reticent about the move, but it was, I was really fortunate. My parents were really, really supportive.
That's
And,
great.
you know, my dad was, I mean, my mom liked to sing. My dad just liked to be around it. He liked the scene.
Yeah.
When I was a kid that he used to hang out with Sammy Davis Jr. when he come through town, you know, and he would be like kind of like one of the guys, one of the hanger-on guys. He just loved the scene.
Right.
And he was always really supportive of me to, you know, to become a professional musician, to basically just do what I want to do.
That's really, do you have any brothers and sisters?
I have an older brother who
Is he,
was real influential to me because he's like a collector. And my older brother, he's 6 years older than me, and he would always be on the hip stuff. Whatever was cool, whatever was new, he had it. He
yeah,
had it, and I was right there. So I got to pick up from osmosis in his record collection when he
sure.
wasn't around all his great stuff. And he still has great taste this very day. He's always on the cutting edge of something.
Does he
So
play music as well, or?
he was a drummer when we were kids, and he never really, you know, super pursued it. You know, he was more of a technical guy. You know, now, you know, he's basically a scientist guy, you know,
Right.
very smart guy, and was a drummer. So he was a drummer, I was the guitar player.
But you both were really smart. Were your parents intellectually smart? Like, was one often when you see this, like one of the parents was a creative and the other one was like like a university professor or something like that?
My dad was a mechanical draftsman, and he
Okay.
worked for Bell Aerospace, and
Okay.
he designed like a lot of valves that, you know, got used in the space program for, you know, everything. So he was a very, you know, technically oriented guy, and my mom was just basically, you know, kick ass, full boat Italian. Don't give my kid any shit. And if you wronged him, look out.
Yeah.
So, you know, my mom was very, very supportive and very kick ass. Absolutely.
Cool, man. So you're 17, move out to LA. I'm assuming you know nobody there.
I had some cousins and some aunts and uncles out here.
So did you stay with them initially, or?
Initially, first thing I did was I got an apartment and got some roommates, and I I can still remember this apartment. Oh my God, in Van Nuys, which was a war zone then. It's a war zone now, at least where I was.
Okay.
Nothing against Van Nuys. And of course, when you're young and dumb, you know, it took me a good year or so to kind of acclimate and figure out what was going on. But I wrangled a teaching job almost right away at a music store.
Okay.
Because I had letters of recommendation from all my friends and contacts from Buffalo. And I just went in and started building a little bit of a student business and started playing in bands. Club bands, you know.
Yeah. That's really, so all that teaching you had done for years, I'm sure they were like, and as responsible as you were, it probably was not hard for you to get a job doing that.
You know, I think when you're just young and you're in the, you know, Southern California, you know, you get out of the snow, you're happy to be anywhere.
Yeah, I'm sure.
You just don't want to go back. I mean, Buffalo is a great place to be from.
No, I get it.
I love going back, and I love the people, but you know, I'm really grateful and glad to still be here in
Sure.
SoCal.
I get you, man. Are your parents still around?
No, unfortunately.
Oh, sorry, man.
Yeah.
Is your brother in Buffalo still?
No, my brother moves out here. He's
oh,
here,
that's cool.
Yeah, everybody is SoCal now, and yeah, we all keep it, you know.
That's nice, man. Here. Very cool. Yeah. All right, so you're teaching. What's your first like big musical break? Now you're in LA.
I get a call I get a call. I'm in a club band and I'm teaching, and I was working 5 nights a week, the 4.5, 5 sets a night, driving to Orange County, playing, rock and roll gigs. And it got to the point where, I'm kind of treading the same ground over and over again. I get a call to come and play for the Iron Butterfly.
Really? That is wild.
Iron Butterfly, right? And they got touring dates, and they were having a lot of trouble with their guitar player. So I learned all the stuff, went to the rehearsal. Next thing you know, I'm on a tour. The tour was with Savoy Brown,
Wow.
Mountain, and Grand Funk Railroad. And
Are
Iron
you
Butterfly was
serious?
So I went from being a kid in Buffalo watching one of my I love Kim Simmons guitar playing as a kid, and next thing you know, I'm hanging out with Kim and Leslie West and Mark Farner, and I'm just a kid, and I'm getting to play all these places, and I'm going, this is great experience. I mean, talk about learn while you earn. It was a good experience.
That's really cool, man. What was I'm not looking for gossip or anything, but what was Leslie like? He's one of my just heroes.
I got a great Leslie West story, and
and I've tried to get him on my show like a dozen times, but there's a wall of people, man, and like you just bounce off the wall. So, but anyway, I mean, I love the guy. He's a great player.
Leslie and Corky Lang, we're on this tour, and we're a couple of weeks into this, and I'm starting to get to know everybody a little bit, and then I hear one night after the show, it's Fister, and I look over and it's Leslie, and he goes, I hear you respect me. And I go, are you kidding? I go, Leslie, you're one of my favorites. Are you kidding? I used to see you in Buffalo all the time, and blah, blah, blah. He just looks at me. He goes, all right. So the next night, a couple nights after this, of course, in the Iron Butterfly, there's the mega drum solo.
Yeah, right? Inagata-Davida, yeah. Was it funny playing that song? It had to be pretty cool.
It was, something. It's a thing that we say nowadays. It's like the hit songs always sound good.
Yeah,
it's because they're a hit song regardless of what people think of them. They give you a career and they give you success. If you're so lucky to have a hit, you can continue to work. But you'd start that intro, and people would lose their minds, and it's this kind of really, it's a cool song. It's unique. So we're playing this song, and a drum solo comes up. And all I hear bellowing from the wings in this theater is Leslie screaming, Fister, get over here. And I go over to the side. He's going, snort this. Now,
that's like oh my God, that is wild. Like, okay, top 10 things.
I don't know if I should have told that one, but I told it, okay? So
top 10 things I didn't expect to happen in my life. That's got to be on that list, man. Wow.
But it's towards the end of the show. All I got to do is come out and go, gong, 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 and I'm done for the night, right?
Yeah.
The next act's up. So if I was ever going to imbibe in that stuff, which I don't, and I haven't for many, many, many years.
Well, but that's the time, man. Of course.
I did then. And so we got to be pals, and I don't even know if he'd remember it, but he was a really cool guy. And his sound is just, and I never knew how he got that with the one pickup, but I mean, it's just such a great, warm, just sound, man. Oh, in the field, you can't get away from that. All the stuff he played is just great. Leslie's great.
My older son is 29 now. When he was born, I bought a tape deck with my favorite songs into the whole thing, right? And when he was delivered, Theme for an Imaginary Western was playing.
Beautiful song.
Yeah, so that's like every time. Well, I don't ride with him much in the car now, but anytime we'd be riding in the car together when he was younger, and even now if he's over here and it comes on, it's like that's our, communal song, me and him together, because you know, he was literally born to that song, which is cool. Yeah.
And a great song.
Oh, and Grand Funk Railroad in Savoy. Wow, man. What a great first call. And they just saw you playing at one of your club gigs.
I got a call. My cousin was playing drums. That's how that happened. My cousin's a great professional drummer, and he was in the band. And we'd been playing in club bands and rock bands for you know, a lot of time. And he said, you know, I just got this gig, and you know, he goes, well, we're having some trouble with the guitar.
Oh, so he was the drummer on Iron Butterfly.
And I put your name. Yes. So it was two of the original guys, and me and my cousin Lenny Campanero.
That's
great
awesome, man. That's great. Thank you. That's a really cool story, man.
That's how that one happened. But there was one little tag on that. We got called. This is one time after all these package tours, you know, and we all had our own back line and stuff. It wasn't like the cavalcade of stars. It was pretty cool. It was a definite rock sort of thing. We got hired. We wound up in Florida to play for a going away party for a gangster.
Nice.
Now, I'm certainly not going to mention any names or anything like that, but it was his going away party. He was going away.
Oh, like to jail. House. Yeah. Okay.
To jail.
Like you meant literally going away. Okay, I get it. I thought like someone's moving to North Carolina or something. No, you mean, okay, going away.
He was going away, and he kind of took a liking to me, and we were hanging out quite a bit that day. And, you know, there was, you know, lavish food and, you know, Playboy models and ice sculptures and
it's Miami?
It was really crazy. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
How to imagine that. Yeah.
You know, yeah, that was a stretch. In this grounds of his house, you know, there was 2 stages, and we had played, and Savoy Brown played, and Herbie Mann played.
Oh,
I
wow.
got to sit in with Herbie Mann. And it was just that was what part of that gig, it gave me a lot of, you know, insight into the world, you know, and, you know, how things really work. And so we played for a gangster's going away party.
That's really crazy, man. Wow.
It was totally insane. So
I
lived to tell about it.
How do you put that on your resume?
You kind of don't.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the head guy was telling me, one story he told me, I was just thinking about the other day, is that he would have his helicopter pilot, and he'd have a bag of $100 bills, and he'd throw them at the pilot's head and say, thrill me, come on, thrill me. You know, so he would make this is the kind of insanity. So
I'm so boring.
Just to get a glimpse into that world, and, you know, and yet be able to get on an airplane the next day and get the hell out of there, you know, was pretty amazing. So yeah. It was interesting.
You've played with a bunch of really cool people. I'm going to just call out some of these projects and tell me how you got the gig, and like a cool story or interesting story about working with them, or the situation or your experience. Start with John Kay and Steppenwolf. Oh my God. Do you hear my cat? Like, can you actually hear that? He's bellowing. So I'm just curious, because he's so loud. I feel like the whole neighborhood can hear him. Sorry, go ahead, man. Oh my God.
That's no worries. Well, with John Kay, I got a call. I just got done with 11 months straight with Lita Ford.
Okay.
And we were all over the world, and it was pretty much 11 months straight. And I got back to my house, and I can remember laying in bed and hearing answering the phone, and it was, well, can you come and audition? And I was so burned out. I go, well, yeah, because, you know, when it's there, you got to get it, and
you got to make hay while the sun's shining.
Absolutely. So I went down to the audition. They gave me 5 or 6 songs to learn. Of course, I learned 8. Always over prepared, ready to go. Walked in the audition, and, you know, auditioning is a bit of science. You know, you got to look right. Instrument has to be correct. You know, the proper amount of small talk, and go and get to it. And we played probably 5 songs. Everything was really cool. Everybody was nice. And I went back to my house, and the next day the manager calls me and goes, Steve, we really liked you, but we're going to go with a different guitar player that has a little bit more marquee value. Those were the exact words.
Wow.
You know, so I'm thinking, okay, well, I just got off a world tour and my stock was up a little bit, but you know, that's okay. I said, well, thanks for the opportunity, and you know, and all the best. So probably 8 days later, phone rings again, and it's the manager, and he goes, well, you know that guitar player that we hired? I go, yeah. Well, he's in jail, and we'd really like you to come out and join the band. And I go, well, okay. And to make a long story even longer, I'm on an airplane the next day, and I already knew probably 8 of the songs, but I'm writing charts in the bus as we're playing in Denver, Colorado. The very first gig overnight was Mile High Stadium.
Wow.
And it was a festival, and there's 55,000 people. No rehearsal, no nothing. I'm coming in the bus. We're coming down the hill. And at that time, where that stadium was, you can almost see into the stadium. And I'm going, we're going to check in the hotel, and we got to go right to the gig. And it was a 45-minute slot because there was multi-bands that day. And I had charts all spread out underneath. And I'm out still playing on the other guitar player's gear because he's in jail, and my stuff wouldn't be flown out for another 3-4 days. So I walk out in front of 55,000 people.
Which was not a 55. That probably didn't intimidate you because you'd just been a world tour with Lita, I would imagine.
You know, it was, if it wasn't, it was tense. You know, I'm lying because it was, you know, there's a lot of new songs and some of their newer songs. I need the old stuff and the arrangements, and these epic endings. You know, I had the mic stand, and there's a chart here, a chart here, a chart here, written really big in Sharpie. And luckily, it was before, it was probably 6 p.m, so I could still kind of see it. And we played this show, and then we went to, I think, Aspen, and then we had a day off, and I learned the rest of the show. We had 1 rehearsal day, and the tour went on for another 3 months. And because there's 12, 13 people out on the road, you know, between the crew and the band, and lighting and sound. And so everybody would have had to go home. But, you know, being a little bit over-prepared, and I don't know. You know, like I said, I didn't get the call the first time, but I got it the second time.
Were you tempted to, like, you know, to tell the guy, man, what about like my marquee value? I
think
because that's a rude thing to say. Like, you don't need to. You could just say, hey, we went with somebody else, but we just thought you did a really good job, and just circumstances. Like, that's just like, you don't. You know what I mean? That's like not. I don't know the necessity of saying something like that, especially in a situation like now that I call you back up. You know.
And by the way, can you fly in overnight and go out in front with no sound check, somebody else's gear?
Yeah.
And I just look at it after all this time as, you know, trial by fire, and it's just one of those life experiences that was. I'm glad that I was able to do it, and that I had the wherewithal to pull it off, and to just go on out on the road and, you know, make some bank.
So a few questions. One is, you're pretty driven. A lot of people would have said, man, I just got back from a gig. I need fucking a weekend here, man, at least to decompress. Right. And that would have been, and there's no way anybody says that you could say, oh man, you're lazy, because that's not lazy. It's like self-care to some extent, but you jumped on it. You're pretty driven. I would say ambitious and driven. Where does that come from? And what do you get out of that besides money emotionally?
You know, probably I would say 90% of the gigs that, you know, as a sideman, I never really did for the money. You know, we get a lot of, quote unquote LA attitude here, and, real mercenary kind of feelings. I never have that. I still don't have it. Much to the chagrin of my bank account. But to me, life is a little bit more important. I mean, if you're going to make the sacrifices that we all do to pursue a more artistic life and career, it really can't strictly be about the money. So you got to like the people. Generally, you got to like the music, and probably not necessarily in that order, but you just kind of have to enjoy experience, because it can really suck out there if you're with some people that are just not cool. And maybe even then, that's when you start getting into money issues, that things start getting a little janky around payday. And, I just try to keep, my biggest thing, Craig, is always to be wary of the craft and always do my job and give more than I get. Always, whether I'm teaching or I'm playing a gig, I like to be over prepared. I like to be a professional. And that's what I teach my students. And that's what I try to, if anybody asks me anything, it's just, be a good guy. Don't be a dick. Treat other people. That's a simplistic view, right?
No, that's such a common thing. If I've heard that 50 times, I mean, it's such a common.
This business
common
can all
sense.
be about ego and silly stuff. But what about the craft? What about, getting up there, doing it right, making sure, your gear is correct, you're prepared, everything sounds right. Basically get what you need to go and do the job at the highest level that I'm capable of doing it at. And, that's been my thing, ever since I started,
So who taught you that? Is there someone, where did you model that from, or where did you decide, at a certain point in time, you had to say, okay, I want my standards to be like this. My question is, why did you come to that conclusion?
I would say that I'm just a big fan of pro bands and great shows. When I go and experience it, as a fan or a consumer, I know what pleases me, emotionally, what touches me, what I hear, what I see. And I've had some really good influences and some good teachers, but as far as the actual getting out and doing it, I just wanted to do the best job that I saw possible. And that's just from, I'm sure I made some mistakes, but, you try to learn from them and, dust yourself off, and brush aside the ego of maybe a leader that could be a little convoluted, and, and just get there and do your job. But I still want to have an emotional component to the music. I don't want to just go, pay me. It's more than that. You don't put your life to this for, some of the crappy money that you're going to wind up getting. You got to really, So,
but
I don't know. I just want to do a good job.
But you also have a really good awareness of, you said, auditioning is a science. You have to make the right amount of small talk. You have to wear the right clothes. So you're not, you're aware of I think it's important that people are aware of these things. And there are things, it's no different than you're doing in business. You want to pick up a client, man, you got to do a presentation, or you got to communicate. And there's certain right things and wrong things to say. And that's the same thing.
You have to get it done quick. People listen with their eyes a lot.
Man, I hear that all.
And in the MTV days, I've heard tell that when I was fortunate enough to play with Lita Ford, the whole organization had some really great success. I was there during a really, really good time, and I had heard she's gone through upwards of 80 guitar players, but I got referrals from 2 different places. There, she didn't like anybody. Nobody just kind of jived, and it's the MTV days. You had to look a certain way, had to play a certain thing. Again, I came into that audition. It was
How'd you get that
learn
audition?
these. I was working for a producer at Jet Records, which is Don Arden and a bunch of people here. And I would do anything at that time, just get in the studio and play on stuff and just hang around. I heard tell that even at that time, that Ozzy was looking for a guitar player. That's another story. But again, Danny Johnson and Len Campanaro were playing in a band, rehearsing, a band called Private Life.
Danny Johnson from Axis?
Yes.
Okay.
Danny's an old friend of
mine. With your cousin?
My cousin. And Eddie Van Halen wanted to produce in their band. And they were rehearsing down the hall from Lita. And they'd always see him in the hallway. And she'd go, man, I can't find any guitar players. I can't find anybody I want. And they both go, we got the guy. We got the guy. Call Steve. Call Steve.
That's so cool.
All this convergence came together. And they told me to learn 2 songs. I learned 5.
Yeah, I like that, man.
I'm in the audition. We're playing, and meanwhile, I'm trying to get the gig with Ozzy Osbourne. I'm trying like anything to get this gig. And I sent in my package, did the whole thing. Next thing you know, during the audition, there's Sharon Osbourne sitting 5 feet from me, and Ozzy's sitting 2 feet away from me.
In Lita's audition.
In Lita's audition, because
That's
Sharon
weird.
was managing Lita at the time.
Oh, okay.
That's the connection there.
Okay.
So I play through a couple of the songs, and they all go scurry outside to talk about me or whatever they were doing in the parking lot. And I'm sitting there, me and Ozzy are just sitting there by ourselves. We're talking about soccer. We're talking about this. I had just got done playing with Michael DeBar.
Okay.
I did a North American tour with him, and he knows Michael. And so he goes, oh, so you're playing with Michael? I said, yeah, I was playing there. Making a little small talk with Ozzy, and I was still trying to get an audition, and everybody in LA was getting the audition, and I couldn't get a damn audition. Next thing you know, I wind up in Lita's band, and she was great. She was a great leader, and she gave me a lot of rein to be able to play and rehearse the band while she's doing interviews, make the set lists and stuff. And she was an awesome leader, and I got to be on the biggest tours. We did a Bon Jovi tour in Europe, and it was great. She was a really good boss, I must say. So
that's cool.
That's how that whole thing happened.
Crazy,
huh?
Yeah, it is crazy, man. Talk about Satriani.
When I met Joe, that's right when I got done playing with Lita. I got a call to play with Stu Hamm.
Oh, sure. I had Stu on the show. Man, early on. But yeah.
Stu is, I got a call. I went down to audition for a North American tour, and we played, got the job. We played a van tour. It was grueling. But when we got to San Francisco, Joe was going to come and sit in.
Oh, wow.
And he did. So we went and played and got to know him a little bit. And how that story goes is many years later, my trio wound up doing the special guests on a European tour for Joe. So we opened for Joe all through Europe.
Wow.
Later on. So it's not exactly like we were, close friends or anything, but that's where I got to know Joe and play with him. And boy, talk about a great guitar player and just an all around smart guy.
Yeah.
Joe.
He was so nice to me, so kind to me, man. He's
a really sweet guy. Yeah.
And how did you wind up opening for Steve?
Well, with Steve, what happened was I've been acquainted with him for a long time. The story would be that I was going out with a girl at the time who was friends with his wife.
Okay.
So right when everybody was getting together, we'd be hanging out and doing that kind of stuff. And
was that weird? Like, because so your girlfriend's friends with his wife, and her husband happens to be Steve Vai, and you're a guitar player. That had to be a little like awkward in the beginning. I would feel awkward anyway.
I'll tell you what, that was before Steve Vai probably was really Steve Vai.
Okay.
He talk about talk about a nice guy and
Yeah,
benevolent.
he was another guy.
Just
Yeah.
mega hardworking guy,
Yeah.
just doing gigs. I mean, we talk about stuff like, you know, it's so different from playing on the big stage and with lots of stage volume and then playing in clubs. I mean, really get down in the dirt and the weeds about what it's really like to get out there and do this stuff. And, you know, stuff like we just hang out, we go to the movies, stuff like that, you know, just normal guy stuff.
Yeah.
And, you know, all these years later, he sat in with my band, and it was a big thrill. He's an absolute gas to play with, absolutely fun. My trio, and the convergence there is the bass player that plays in my band also plays with.
Oh, okay. I was thinking Brian Beller. No, okay, yeah, I was thinking of Brian Beller, but he plays with Joe.
Yeah, he's great too.
Yeah.
So
that's so funny, man.
Yeah, so it's, you know, I mean, the world does get smaller all the time, doesn't it?
Yeah, man, it does.
And I'd like to think if you were an asshole 25 years ago, you wouldn't be working now. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. I would like to think at least some things have gone, you know, incredibly right. And
yeah,
that was
yeah.
one of them. That was a really nice thing because Steve's a really cool guy. And,
yeah.
Always helpful, and you know, he tried to get me in Roth's band when he left, and you know, all
that's really cool. Yeah, he was very nice and very helpful and kind to me as well. And he didn't know me from anywhere, and he was extremely nice. So that's, you know, it's a misnomer. I think, and I used to believe this when I was younger because I didn't know any better. People, they think, oh, people at the top of the, I'll use the word food chain, people at the top of whatever business industry, they got there by being assholes. And maybe a few did, but by and large, my experience has been in business and now in music, that the people at the top are the nicest people. And that's how that's part of how they got there. That's
totally been my observation. The bigger they are, the nicer they are. Generally, you know, the more, you know, accomplished and or wealthy.
Yeah,
that's been pretty much. I can't think of any a-holes that I've been. You know, they're all really super nice people.
Yeah.
You know, John Bon Jovi is one of the nicest guys. You
talk about that, man. How'd you wind up? Was that? Oh, you opened for John.
We did with when I was with Lita. We wound up doing the Bad Medicine tour. And, and that was, it was really, really super cool about that. I'm hanging around the hotel one day, and we're the support act on this huge tour. Every night is, you know, 17, 20,000 people. We played 4 nights at Wembley.
Wow.
You know, it was a huge, huge tour, a great experience to be on that. And I came into, I think we were in Munich, and I didn't want to hang around the hotel, you know, and so I went down to the venue early, took a cab, went down early. And I couldn't get in around the backstage. Everything was locked up. They were doing a sound check, Bon Jovi guys. And I hear from the stage, Steve, come on up here. So I'm in the back, and I get up on the stage, and he goes, but we want to start doing jams at the end after they do their encores. And he goes, do you know We're an American Band? Do you know Traveling Band? I go, sure, I know them. Let's play them. So I'm invited up to play, and just because I was in the support act, didn't paid no mind to him. He was really cool. And pretty much every other night they do their full show, and the union rules weren't like they are here in the States. You know, it's like there's still 17,000 people out there. And next thing you know, we're playing back in the USSR. We're an American band, and you know, I'm writing out lyrics to cover songs, and we're working on songs to play afterwards.
That's so cool.
One night I got to play with Elton John and Brian May.
Wow.
And, just on a jam. I mean, the stage is so huge, and, you know, that kind of thing, you know, in front of 17,000 people. So that's a great experience that I can remember from that. And that's all thanks to Lita hiring me in her band. When
you said explain how the rules are different. You said union rules are different. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah, it seemed that, you know, like, you know, when you go to a show here in the States, it's like, you know, curfew's 11 o'clock, boom, you're out of there. It seemed
that's just the way that's just the way it is in any place.
Europe was a little bit different. It's like the headliner would play their big long show, do 2 encores, and then all of a sudden, well, okay, we're gonna play another one, and next thing you know, the crew's got a couple extra amps out there, and there's a big jam at the end of the night in front of all the people.
And it doesn't matter the time, but here, like, does everything have to shut down here at 11?
Pretty well, it differs. I know New York is really tough. If it's a union
Interesting.
place.
Well, it's funny because
a little overtime, then you're fine.
Wow.
So there's, everything really runs by the clock. That was one thing that was really, really nice, that we had the opportunity to be able to do that kind of stuff. It was great.
It's funny because I was mentioning I saw Elton last night, and I remember getting in my truck to go home, and I look at the clock, it was 11:03. So obviously, yeah, it was like, I was like, wow, okay, now it makes sense. What'd you do with Jack Casady, man? That guy's like such a great talent, man. Him and Yorma, my God.
And Jack played on Electric Ladyland.
That's right.
Jack's a legend, and I've been a huge Jack fan. During one of the Steppenwolf tours, we did a tour with the Jefferson Airplane with Jack. Yorma was not in the band then. Jack was in the band, and Procol Harum.
Oh, wow.
And it was a really fun tour. And I would see Jack, in the lobby. We just say, in the mornings before we'd all go get on the bus and go different, Jack was always a cool guy, so I was kind of acquainted with him. And I got a call from the producer, the guy who produced the record. And he said, listen, I'm going to do a solo record with Jack. Jack's never done a solo record. He goes, do you want to come down and, come do the rehearsals and play on? I said, absolutely. So we did it up at Jack's house in Benedict Canyon here. And half of the tracks I did with Matt Apps, the drummer from Government Music.
God. Oh, my God. That guy's so talented. He's
sweet guy.
And what's amazing about the guy? He's probably 140 pounds soaking wet. And I've seen Mule 5 or 6 times. He's an amazing, and he's killing it back there. And then I expected this big, giant behemoth of a man to step out from behind the drum set. He's not. He's a slight guy.
I knew Matt, talk about going back. We would play in a Sunday night band. Just like we'd play and then we'd leave and then people would come up and jam. And Matt was a house drummer. We did that for months together. So I was already kind of acquainted with him anyway. And the other half of the tracks, Steve Gorman from the Black Crowes was playing. So I did all the rhythm tracks and all the basic tracks with the guys and got to do that. And then we went out and played a couple of shows, like up north for like record release parties and stuff like that. But Jack was super. Really great to play with him, play with a legend. And it was a really great time.
Let me ask you a question. If you're uncomfortable the least bit, please do not answer. I'm asking from curiosity. When someone gets a phone call, like I said, hey, do you want to play on this record? And you're like, yeah, absolutely. Is that like you get paid for that? And again, if you don't want to answer it, that's totally cool. I can edit this out. Is that something like this? When people, not just you, but anybody in that situation, is it generally understood that, yes, we're paying you? Or if they're not paying, they say, hey, we got this record, and they tell you up front there's no compensation for it. How does something like that work?
Well, there was a record deal in place, and I knew there was a budget.
Okay.
And I had worked for this producer before.
Okay.
I knew there was going to be money involved.
Okay.
How much? To me, and it just goes to show you the way I think about things. I wanted to play with Jack.
I get it.
I wanted to be in that scene. I wanted to play music with him first and foremost, and it was really great. And not to divert, but a singer on one of the tracks was Fee Waybill.
Oh, from the Tubes, yeah.
And coming full circle, I wound up doing a show, and I got along really well with Fee. He's a really good guy. And when we did those road gigs, he was there. we're telling all sorts of stories. He's telling me stories about the old days with the tubes and this and that. And when I was with John Kay, we might have played a couple of, our paths had crossed a few times. And it's just like when you run into people on the road years later, it's what I can remember what Sharon Osbourne told me many, many years ago. She says, there's only 300 people in the whole music business. That's all there is. And if you really think about it,
that's
really
pretty funny. In the business end, she's probably right.
Maybe only 200. I mean, even if you talk about the players, you start thinking about it. And circles are not that big. People think, well, everybody's got their clique and everybody's got, their go-to people that you can call. And who do you trust and who don't you trust? Are you going to get in a new circle of people? Because let's face it, Craig, it really is people business. I mean, it's people are your best resource, right?
100%.
I mean, it's like you can be the best guitar player ever. If you walk into an audition, just say, for example, cold, and nobody knows you, nobody will vouch for you. Who is this guy? The guy plays really good. Don't know anything about this guy. You're not going to get the job. If you get somebody to vouch for you or recommend, it's like, for example, even me being on your show. If I called you up cold and I go, Craig, I'm this guitar player from LA. I want to be on your show. You're going to say, who the fuck is this guy?
No, I'm not.
But if somebody, now I would do the same thing if I were you. Somebody, but Mario from Godin says, hey, Steve, why don't you get Steve on the show? And then when we finally connected, I go, I was making a joke. I said, Greg, I wanted to be doing this for a while, it's because I did the show. And
Thank you.
My biggest point was when I'm listening to some of the interviews, I feel like I'm not alone. I feel like, we all kind of go through these things and you uncover a lot of the good and the bad, so basically the reality of the situations, which is very cool.
Well, it's interesting because people say, hey, you get, and I always feel awkward. I know this is a compliment, but I always feel awkward. You get people to talk about stuff that they've never talked. And because I have people say all the time, well, I've never shared this, and it's like some fucking really like, oh my God, like, holy shit. Like it's not, and I'm not trying to do that. I'm just, honestly, if I just met somebody and we're hanging out and I get the sense they're an open person, that's the conversation. I don't really want to talk about. So, how many square feet is your house? Like that is not going to help me. I just don't care about that stuff. But if I talk about something meaningful, I can learn a lot if someone shares their story with me, So it's always funny when people say, because I'm not like, it's just, that's what I would talk about. Only the questions would be going back and forth.
Right. Okay.
That's the only difference, because it's an interview setting. The questions are generally going one way.
And I've heard some stuff, and I see people sharing a lot of stuff, and I'm going, oh my God, what am I going to? Am I going to tell Craig that story? Am I going to bust that out?
Yeah.
So here we are. So
talk about the Stern Show specifically, and then you've done a lot. And I don't know if it's licensing or have you played on track shows? Is this music you've licensed? I assume it's music you've licensed, or some of it is.
All of it
is licensing.
What kept me in my, keeping my band together and my artistic vision together was licensing, because
good for you.
I had mortgage to pay, and I had a lot of different, financial responsibilities, obviously. And you're going to lead an artistic life. Oh, that's all good and fine, but, you
got to pay for shit.
You don't work, you wind up living under a bridge,
Yeah.
And
that's always the same thing everybody says. It's never, they never say you're homeless. They say you're living under a bridge. I'm like, wow, that's really, everybody says it. Is that like is there a chapter in like music theory book or something? Do this or you'll be living under a bridge, or I don't know.
Just ride around LA and you'll see what I mean.
Okay. I gotcha.
It's very sobering. And so I was fortunate enough to, I had done what really was my first solo record. And at the time, and this is we're getting into a whole nother story here. I don't want to bore everybody. But come around, I would say it was 93-ish, everything changed, as we all know, particularly in LA, from the economy to musical tastes. And I was kind of known as the big hair guy that played in arenas. And all of a sudden that work just disappeared.
Yeah.
So everything that I was, so what did I really need to do? Anyway, make a long story even longer. I had 2 houses here, which I had gotten. And I said, well, I always been a roots, basically deep down a roots guitar player. It's what I like. You can dress it up any way you want, turn it up or do whatever. But the fundamentals and stuff have always been, roots music has always been really important to me. So I moved to Nashville.
Oh,
and
cool.
I did it way before it was fashionable.
Yeah.
Because I said, well, if I'm going to start over, now is the time to do it. And anyway, I was there, still kept my property here. It wound up, I got a gig with Pat Travers almost immediately.
In Nashville.
Out of Nashville.
I give you a lot of credit, man. Yeah, I know. He's right up the road here.
So I was, I got a gig with, it was a bucket list gig. I love Pat. When the Go For What You Know record was great. And in the band at the time when I got the job, and that was through a contact at Gibson Guitars.
Wow.
I made friends with guys at Gibson, and I was endorsing them at the time. And who doesn't love Gibson guitars, and he said, well, Pat's looking for a guitar player. And I went down and played, got the job, and lo and behold, Ainsley Dunbar's on drums.
Wow.
So, and we wound up being roommates, and I got to hear all the Jimi Hendrix stories and all the stuff and Frank Zappa stories. And
he's passed.
Anyway, I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I know his health was a little bit failing, but I look back very fondly on the times that I got to play, in that band with those guys. It was a good time. I did a record and a bunch of tours with them in the U.S. And
wow.
Then after that, Steppenwolf came calling again. And I was there, and I wound up doing 2 more years, years worth of touring while living in Nashville, playing for John Cary in Steppenwolf. So that was pretty much my Nashville experience. And but that was the thing. You had to have a road gig in order to live there. There was not enough work there to sustain. I was doing $50 demo sessions, till the cows came, but it still wasn't really enough. So you had to have a road gig, and a lot of the guys were really great. Some tremendously great guitar players, nice people. I'm still in contact with all people. They're very nice people, and
it's a very unique community.
Very much so. I wound up getting a solo record deal, and during my time with John Kay, and we would fly out to LA, and then I had Greg Bissonette play on my record.
Oh, right.
Greg Bissonette didn't live in Nashville. I needed the real guys to suit what I wanted to do. So I used those kind of opportunities to stay out here, stay with friends, and kind of get my solo vision together.
So renting your houses out?
Yeah.
Okay, good for you. Okay.
Rented them, and eventually wound up moving back. And I haven't looked back since. I go back every once in a while to see friends, but I live here. This is it.
It's wild that I give you so much credit, man. People are often afraid to do things.
I was thinking about that too, because anticipating some of the questions and things. I'm thinking Craig's going to ask me these questions, and I don't know. It was I read a lot of books about. I remember there's one in particular called Risking, and I really believe that life is short and you really got to grab on.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean a life of total excess or being an asshole. You just golden rule it, just try to be cool, have fun, as much fun as you can within the parameters of the gig. To me, it was always about the gig. It was never about, what are we going to do after the gig? That's the focal point of the work ethic. So I just always kind of go by that.
So you've studied like self-development or have pursued higher knowledge in it or something, or?
I try. I'm a work in progress. Totally.
Who's not? Jesus, man.
You know what I mean? There's always something new.
Yeah. Of course.
Something that you can fuck up when you're not looking,
Absolutely.
But yeah, I try,
So is that where you mentioned Nashville? Is that where you started getting into licensing?
As a matter of fact, sorry, I got off the track on that. I had a friend of mine that managed a restaurant on Music Row. And I had just made my first solo record on an independent label. And there's all these executives were coming in, and she was friends with all these executives. And she goes, well, check out my friend's record, the typical thing, right? Next thing you know, I'm getting contracts to license a lot of the instrumental music on these records.
Oh, man.
It still pays me to this day. Not a lot, but I do get paid, and I thought, well, all right. So I wound up signing separate deals for subsequent records.
Okay.
That they would pay me out front to produce some of this music. And I would like to think the reason why my stuff got used and still gets used is that it was real drummers, real bass players, and, real honest to goodness, amplified guitar and acoustic textures and whatever, but it was real. And when people were looking for this type of music, I think the supervisors liked it because it felt real to them.
Sure.
And it helped float my, my initial bunch of records, that I could fulfill my artistic whims, and have a little budget to be able to do it.
How funny is that though? Like, I'm always blown away by the serendipity of this. Oh, my friend worked in a restaurant and asked somebody and handed out my record or so. Like
my record.
I mean, how like I just marvel at this stuff. Like,
I know, it's crazy.
And that's why I come to believe there is a greater power at this. That's my personal belief. Nobody else needs to. It's not a. You don't have to respond to that if you do agree or disagree. I'm just saying. This I've heard too much of stories like this. And
I'll tell you, I didn't know when I was signing these deals and doing this stuff, it was, I didn't see dime one until like a year and a half later.
Well, that's the way licensing works. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm thinking, oh, well, great. What am I signing here? What am I doing? I have a friend of mine here in LA that every time I have, a publishing concern or something, I can call him and ask him questions. Publishing it's something musicians don't understand. And I don't profess to understand everything about it. But whenever I have a question, like I have a song on the TV show, The Supernatural, and I'm seeing all this stuff turning up on playlists and stuff, and I'm going, did I get paid for that? So I had to do a search, and he helped me do things to see if I made sure I got my money on that. And those are the things that keeps the lights on.
Yeah.
For anyway, those kind of things, and being educated about it, but by the same token, not letting it take over your life, not letting it get in the way of, writing and creating the music and playing in the damn band,
Is that how your stuff got on Stern Show? They just licensed it.
Yeah, I got, for somehow or other, I got a Budweiser commercial, and they would play it, and
that's funny.
And that helped make a lot of car payments.
Yeah, I would imagine.
I got a theme song for the Detroit Pistons. They would play it all the time.
That's
those kind of themes, but they were my rock and roll stuff. It was the stuff that I didn't create to make a theme for a professional basketball team. I played what I wanted to play.
Yeah.
So I was duly blessed.
With your trio now, you do a lot of touring over in Europe, and I was curious, what are the differences from your perspective between U.S. crowds, European crowds, and frankly, why do you probably do better there in Europe than here in the States? If that's a bad assumption, please correct me.
No, you're spot on. I thought that living here on the West Coast, it's really costly to get out and play and to go to these different cities and things. And at the time, I had gotten a European record deal, which that company still exists, believe it or not. And I thought it would be an opportunity for me to get over there. And the hardest part is getting there. That's where all the expense. But cities are closer together. And I found that it's a little easier to travel there. And they like what we do. A lot of the European people, like Germany, Austria, Belgium, Poland, Czech Republic, Denmark. It's pretty wide open. They like what we do. And I'll tell you what, they're loyal. I've got a lot of people that have come year after year after year, and they'll come, and next time they're bringing the kids, and it's, so it's a very, very nice thing. And it's a circuit that I could be on, and that I go there and I get to have my own band. I never use pickup players, never. The music.
So you fly your guys over there?
Absolutely.
That's cool, man.
And it's not cheap, but I'll tell you, it's not the kind of music, not that it's mega progressive or complex. It's not, but there has to be a certain feeling, a certain vibe. And you're not going to get that from a mercenary guy who's standing there with his hand out,
No, of course not. Yeah. There's no skin in the game, man.
It's a vibe. It's a vibe band. And the whole idea is really to entertain the folks and have them tap their foot and have a good time. That's really what this rock and roll thing is. It's not how fast can I move my hands. It's really about transmitting a feeling and writing good songs. And of course we play too many notes. Of course we do. But that's half the fun,
Are they, do they support merch sales out there as well? Are they good with that?
Absolutely. And
yeah, that's cool.
That's where, everything from all the CDs in the back catalog, whether they play the CDs or not, they want to support.
No, they want to support. Yeah, I get it.
I still make CDs, and I hear people say, oh, well, grouse about this. Yeah, streaming is very, very unfair. Yeah, it's unfair. I know it's unfair. And I'm a real late adopter when it comes to that. But, you got to get in and play ball. You got to swing the bat or else you're not even getting in the game. So, yeah, I keep making CDs and I keep doing that. And that way, when people want to support what they think is an earnest, heartfelt show, they'll support, and they do.
Yeah, you can pay for all your flights, hopefully, from the merch sales.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
If nothing else, that's how you got to look at it. Is even if you're not making money, or you're recovering your costs, and then you can get paid on the gigs itself, and not have to worry about that. I mean, that's the way that game works, man. It
is costly. I have a bus. I have a sound man. Sound man / tour manager.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody needs to get paid, and it's It's a well-oiled machine, but it is a machine, and so there's not a lot of room for error. And yeah, there is some error, of course there is, but that's where you've got to love the music and the people that you're working with.
Yeah, because your bus is going to break down. You're going to get stuck in Bavaria when it's freezing. I mean, it's just this way shit happens, man.
You were there on the last two.
That would happen. Yeah, I hear this all the time. Guys get stuck, and then now I know that a lot of the governments are a little more understanding, but the guys would come over and like, "What are you doing here in this country?" That kind of shit would happen sometimes.
Absolutely, yeah.
This is a good time to talk about your record, because we're talking about your performing over in Europe. I cannot believe my cat, how loud he is, man. Your last studio record, Let It Slide. Dug it. Really cool rock record. Great written song. Your vocals are really good, man. I really,
thank you.
It's always interesting for me to talk to somebody, if that's the first context of my contact with you. And then I hear you sing. It's like, not just you, anybody. It's like, I'm not Your singing voice for the most part is different than your speaking voice, and you're a professional. Your voice is good. Not that your speaking voice isn't good. It's just the transition. It's not, it's
It
out of
doesn't seem like
context.
the same, does it? Yeah.
Yeah, it's totally, it's like, if you work in a normal job and you see everybody at work, and all of a sudden one day you see them in the grocery store, it's like, oh, what do you, they just, it's out of context. But I really liked it. I just want to ask you about a few of the tracks. It's 10 tracks, really rocking. The name of the record is Let It Slide. No One Left to Blame. Great tune, great power licks. Is there like a backstory to that?
I just had the riff and the track, and as far as the lyric goes, I was going to say it's autobiographical, but if anybody hears the song, yeah, the lyrics are tongue in cheek, but heartfelt. It was just a track that we really liked the vibe, and as a matter of fact, just 2 nights ago, we actually did a rehearsal. We went in and did Philip and Sandro and I, and we learned 4 of the songs off the record that we had not had previously in the live show this year, just to see how they would come out. And we played No One Left to Blame. It was really,
That's fun.
It was a lot of fun, to bring them to life, because we played them in the studio, but we've never played the songs live. I mean, a bunch of these off the new record. So we wanted to put them in the show for this year, and it was really fun to play. So cool.
My favorite track on the record was something called 23 Pills. Great funky bass, funky guitar, some double tracking on your guitar. And then you're, hitting it hard with some good shreds and stuff. But what do you like best about that song? And also, what does 23 Pills mean? I know when you're doing instrumental records, it's really hard, instrumental songs, to like, what do you call this thing, So it may have no significance, but it's just not a common name. So.
Well, when you have a track, well, okay, if I'm writing a track and I don't have a title for it, you stick it in your iTunes, right? And then the database comes up, and there's some like Chinese writing for this title and this title.
Yeah.
And all that, the database. And I stuck it in my iTunes just so I could have it for reference. A title came up and said 23 Pills.
Oh, so you just said, okay, great. There you go.
I said, that's going to be the name of the song.
Awesome.
All right, so
perfect.
Yeah, I like that song too. It's a lot of fun to play that one.
Good song. And then I also like I Will Not Fall Down. Great wah-wah pedal there, man. I was curious, the guitar sounds great there. What guitar and amp were you playing there?
That one, and that track is live, by the way. That's live in the studio. There's no overdubs on that. That's a one taker. And this is the guitar I used for that
song. That's your
it's a Godin.
Godin, right.
Montreal premiere, and it's hollow body, got the solid, and geez, I played it through a PV Classic 50 tube amp and a Marshall 4x12 cabinet that was mic'd off in a closet, and that was it. Boom, we cut 3 songs in 3 hours, and half of that time was set up, and then we just went and did it. And it came out and put it on the record and say, this sounds good. Let's do that.
Really good record, man. I really enjoyed it. This goes back to motivation. You've made 10 solo records, man.
Yeah.
What keeps you motivated to keep making records? I mean, well done. Awesome. But what's the driving force there?
I think the driving force is, artists got to create, writers got to write, musicians got to play. And if you don't do it, then you're not keeping up your end of the bargain. I'm always writing songs, and I feel very fortunate that I write what I want to write. Yeah. I'm not like, write a song like this. I've been very fortunate, so it's an outlet for me. And the fact is that I have some sympathetic guys. I got a killer band. The guys are great. Not only do we have a good time, they get me and they get my sensibility on the instrument. And we really enjoy our time together. And trust me, it's not about the money,
Oh, yeah, I know.
You know what I mean? I mean, everybody needs to get compensated, but that's not the motivation for it. So I just got to do it, you know. And then obviously there's the thing about the merch table. The fact is that I'm still fortunate that I, you know, have an audience that I can go play for.
Yeah.
And whether the fan base isn't that, you know, 30,000 people, regardless, I can still go on out and tour and do my thing. And boy, I'm grateful for that.
Good for you, man.
You know,
low points, Steve. What were some of the low points or darker periods you've had to deal with, and how'd you get through them?
It was a little over 2 years ago. The whole year, that's when we had put out the acoustic record. It was that year, and it was a bucket list thing for me. I always wanted to make an acoustic unplugged record, and because everybody's kind of done one, but I wanted to do one. So it's right there, during the midst of putting that whole thing together. I've been getting horrible headaches. Just, you know, I'm eating Advil and Tylenol like candy all day long, and over the course of that year, headaches are getting worse and worse and worse. And as we discussed earlier, if you don't work, you don't get paid.
Yeah.
And in this business, you don't like to let people know that you're sick or that you have an attitude or any of that kind of stuff. They were getting worse and worse and worse. And I went to the doctor 3 times, misdiagnosed 3 times. Oh, well, you know, you have vertigo. Oh, you have migraines, you know, and take this. Nothing's helping. And it got to the point, it was so bad. The headaches got so bad right around the holidays 2 years ago that I was almost getting seizures. The pain was just so horrible. Didn't know what to do. My good friend finally just took me to the emergency room. And it turns out that I had a brain bleed.
Holy shit.
Some sort of an aneurysm or something. I don't know what it came from or what the hell it was. But I wound up in there. And the neurosurgeon, 2 days later, I'm literally having brain surgery.
Holy shit.
And the part of it is that what they had to basically do is they had to cut 2 holes in my head, which, you know, I know there's a joke there. I don't want to make it. But the neurosurgeon was a guitar player, and I had just signed a new deal with a new booking agency for Europe. I had a tour going out. You know, everybody's already retained. Truck driver, I got responsibilities up the ass. I'm in the hospital. The guy makes one wrong move. When he gets in there, I can't move my hands. I mean, that was scary as hell. It could have all been over. But the neurosurgeon was a guitar player, and he knew of me. And I said, well, I figured he's going to have to shave my head, right? So they pulled everything aside and glued it and pinned it and stuff. And anyway, he operated and got all the there's like blood between your skull and your brain, basically is what it is. And they drained all the blood, and the recovery was fucking hellish. But
what way?
Just couldn't play. You're hearing, you know, all weird, you know, hearing things that you just need to recover.
Oh, so because it's going through your brain, your nervous system is rewired and needs to sort of like reset or something.
Absolutely. Shit's misfiring all over the place. And I got a tour to go on. Literally.
Dude, that is too much pressure, man.
6 weeks to recover. But okay, you know, I would think that my favorite people in life were always, my idols were always musicians and, you know, artist people, actors and stuff. But I'll tell you what, this guy who operated on me, this neurosurgeon, he's a guitar player too, like I was saying. And that guy, talk about cool and calm, you know, he saved my life, you know, and it was corny or not, the guy's really super cool, really chill, came in and told me. I made the decision, boom. I was the very next day I was in surgery, and he took care of it. And, you know, all my motors, they woke me up after it. And I remember this. right, I'm still on the table, and they woke me up. They said, "Can you move your hands? Can you move your hands?" You know, and I'm going, and I'm all bandaged up in the whole thing, and I go, "Yeah, they all work. Everything's cool." So into the intensive care for 3 days, and back out, and did not miss one tour date, and didn't tell anybody I was sick.
That is where the pressure is, right there. When you said that earlier, because man, that's difficult. That, to me, that's the difficult part of this. Not to diminish anything physically you went through, but to not be able to talk about this, because man, you got to get support. You got to tell somebody, man, my fucking head I got brain bleed here, and I'm scared shitless. You know.
I know.
Do you know how that happened?
You know, it was a combination of a bunch of things. Probably stress reaction, and you know, it was a mega hard year. I had a lot of readjusting to do, personal stuff. But I really think what might have happened, I think I hit my head on the trunk lid of my car, and it didn't mean anything to me at the time, but it must have been, the only way I can liken it to is like, you know, somebody can break a board with their hand if they hit it in the right spot.
Sure.
Maybe I just hit it in the right spot, and it just, you know, so yeah, head injuries. You know, I watch football games and all sorts of stuff, and I'm watching this stuff, and I'm going, oh man. Or even baseball games, somebody gets hit in the head with a baseball.
Yeah,
man, if it hits you right, it can really, really, really mess you up and make you. It could kill you, basically. So I was really lucky, and listen. I mean, I had some really good support. My close friends knew.
Okay.
But you know, industry-wise. And everybody,
that's
supportive.
That's torture, man.
People think you're a liability; they're not going to hire you.
No, but that's torture. The torture is not that's the reality. The torture is that you're sick, and you've got to consider that.
By the time
that's a lot of pressure, man.
The headaches afterwards. I mean, nobody knew. I had this brand new agent that, you know, booked this tour for me. You know, I had the band in place, I had everything. And that was the impetus to get my ass out of bed. And on the plus side, okay, if there is a plus side on any of this, I've been playing guitar virtually every day since I was 5 years old. And I didn't play for probably, maybe a month. Longest of my whole life I've gone without playing guitar. So consequently, my wrist healed. You know, we all have repetitive motion. Guitar players all have it. Our wrists hurt, our shoulders hurt, the whole thing. It's just part of the gig.
Yeah.
Everything healed up, and we went out and did the tour. And even 2 days before I got on the plane to do the tour, I had to essentially get cleared to go on an airplane. But between you and me, I was going anyway.
Yeah.
But it was nuts that you know, the surgeon said, you know, showed me the CT and everything. And he goes, yeah, okay, you can do this. Just go as easy as you can. And we went over and played rock and roll for 5 weeks.
Man, I wouldn't be surprised if stress was a big part of that. I had some shit happen to me one time, and I'm 100% sure it was stress related. So
stress is just how to deal with it, Craig, man. I you know, it's life. We're fortunate people, right? I mean, you know, we're walking around breathing and we're grateful for the whole thing, but life can really kick your ass sometimes, you know. And,
I saw this thing on Facebook someone posted the other day, and it said, life is short. Make sure you spend a bunch of time on the internet arguing with people arguing with strangers on Facebook about politics. And I was like, right on, man. Right on. Because I never have ever argued with anybody I mean, like, I don't want to argue in person. Why would I waste my time arguing online? Like, arguing is arguing. What is what's in it for me? You know, like, even if someone's a dick to me, I just like, okay, it's none of my business, you know.
That's the thing about even my social media and things. I mean, I think this conversation is probably the most intimate I think I get on social media and stuff. It's about music for me.
Yeah.
It's about that kind of stuff. It's not about my political beliefs or what I think of, or who I think is a dick, or
Yeah.
whatever. That's not important, you
I
know.
know.
So I lock that shit down pretty tight, you know.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're better, man. And that you feel good now?
Oh man, it was, you know,
Do you exercise? You're really fit.
every day, every
Yeah.
day. I live in the hills here, and my meditation, which I do almost daily, is I walk and
Good.
meditate, that kind of thing. So I get my ass out of the studio when I'm not on the road, and just lightweight stuff that doesn't mess with my guitar playing. But yeah, pretty much every day. You know, got to keep it going.
Man, it's funny. I had mentioned to you, I was at Elton John last night. We were going up in an elevator, man, and I got all these people got in the elevator, man. And I don't want to sound ungrateful, but they weren't much older than me, and I was horrified at the fucking shape they were in. I was like, oh my God, this is what happens when you don't exercise. I was so happy. I mean, I feel bad saying it, but I'm like, man, do you look at yourself in the fucking mirror, man? You do not look healthy. You know, you cannot move. And I was like, you know, I'm very grateful for being healthy, but man, you got to exercise. You got to move, man. That shit's not going to last forever. You got to, you know.
Absolutely, and you got to eat properly. I mean, come on, that's the most important thing you can do. What you're eating. I mean, you are what you eat, right?
Hell yeah! I mean, all these people run, and then they're all running out to the chip, whatever the hell snacks they were eating. I was like, what the hell? I can't believe this. It's like you know, lemmings jumping off a cliff almost. I was like, what is going on? I'm sitting there eating broccoli and like a little bit of rice with a chicken breast, and don't you want to?
Exactly.
Like, no, I don't. Anyway, well, I'm glad you're healthy, man. Thank you for sharing. I'm really glad you're doing well.
Oh, man,
What did you learn out of that?
You know,
that you've changed something, that you've changed the habit.
You know, I am glad that, you know, had I not had my gigs and that initial stress thing, you know, to get my ass healthy, because I'll be honest with you, you know, when you're in intensive care like that, and you're pretty fucked up on all sorts of drugs, you know, you're keeping your career intact and going. You've got people that are depending on you. You know, I'm the leader, I'm the boss, you know. If I let them down, you know, that would majorly suck. And then, but by the stress of that is kind of what helped get my ass out of bed and say, okay. And you know what it's about these days to me now, I think what I've learned from that whole thing is really about pacing. You know, whatever I try to do, there's days, you know, we cram so much shit in a day.
Mm-hmm.
We're scheduled like crazy. Now, man, I try to stretch it out, and I make sure that I truly try not to overdo stuff and try to keep as level as possible. Doesn't always work, but that's, I think, one thing I learned from that.
Good, man. I'm glad you got something out of it. I'm glad you're healthy.
Oh, thank you.
Let's switch to gear for a minute. You got some nice guitars out back, man. Tell me your number one, and maybe what rounds out your top few.
This one.
Signature guitar. That's right, man. Let's talk about it.
Here's a signature model, you know, and this is made by a custom shop in the Ukraine, and it's Universum guitars, and this is
Universal.
Universum.
Okay.
And this is all, it's a solid block with two F holes and chambers on the sides. And it's some fancy, crazy wood. You know, I'm so, you know, not tuned into that. All I know is that it sounds really good and it fits the trio really well. It occupies a really nice frequency response compared to the bass and drums. It's trio. So everything's got to have its, anyway, I was telling you, I did a radio show and the demo of some of these guitars, and they like my playing and etc. I was very grateful. And they said, well, we want to make you a guitar. So they did. And I had some input on the pickups, and I wanted to put this. Are
those Duncans in there or?
Yeah, these are Saturday Night Special, which is kind of like a little hotter PAF, and a 59er in the front.
Very cool.
And Seymour's always been my go-to guy, and the guitar sounds really good. It's really stable. Travels great. I just put it on my back and put it in the overhead.
Is that a Floyd too, or?
This is a Duesenberg from.
Oh yeah. Oh, very cool. Yeah.
And it's not locking, but I got the locking gears on it. Which really helps keep it in tune. And
lightweight.
I'm a pretty much, yeah. It balances really well, and it's probably about not quite 8 pounds. 7.5, 8.
It's okay. So it's got some beef on it.
It's got a little bit of heft, and something. It's not a Strat, and it's not a Les Paul. So I think it's total fister. You know what I mean? It's like doing your own thing. You might as well do it with a guitar like this. So I'm grateful to the guys over there for making me this, and I love it. I love playing it.
Rosewood or ebony neck? I can't. Fretboard rather.
It's this African something Babingo wood.
Babingo wood. Yeah. Okay.
It's really porous, but very, very, very dense. So the notes really fly off it. I would almost liken it to ebony.
So let me ask you this: your hands are huge, man, or they're pretty big. That looks like a fat neck, but it's slim. Is that accurate? Well, maybe not so slim.
It's got a little bit of taper on it. I actually like thinner necks. I like thinner necks. It's like the less movement you need. It's really more about the sound. The easier you can get around things. So I don't know. This took a little bit of getting used to, but it intonates well. It stays in tune, and I can beat the shit out of it.
That's awesome, man.
And it still works. So that's the test. It's pretty. Look at the back; it's all contoured.
Yeah, it is pretty, man. Good for you.
But the Godin stuff, I got to tell you, the Godin stuff, they're a great company, and I've been fortunate enough to go up there to Montreal and hang with those guys and do clinics for them and master classes. And those are my go-tos. I wanted to show you this one.
You said that's your slide. That's a pretty guitar, man.
And this thing works really great. And this goes with me on all the shows. I play this on everything and play it on a lot of records. And
what model is that?
It's called a Summit. It's their Summit model, and it's all North American hardwood and Duncan pickups. And I'm telling you, for the price and the playability, you can't beat it. You really can't. I mean, this to me is as good as any Les Paul I ever play. I have a really nice Les Paul in my closet there that I use occasionally, but this is my go-to all the time. I love this guitar.
You notice the difference. It doesn't have as much of a neck bend as the Gibsons do, I don't think. On the headstock rather.
Oh, right, up here.
Yeah, I don't think.
And the pitch is a little different. I got the capo on here, but I do a lot of different tunings and stuff. But you see, it's a pretty guitar.
And those fretboards are Bakelite.
Rich Light.
Rich Light, yeah, okay.
And I initially thought, well, what is this, a cost-cutting thing? What's going on with the Rich Light? And I talked to Robert Godin, Mr. Godin, about it. And actually what it is, it's a composite wood. And it's actually, they need special tooling because it's so dense. And it's actually more expensive than ebony and rosewood to get. I'm glad
you said that, because I used to think the same. I thought the same thing.
Yeah, I thought, what are they cutting cost? Actually costs them more. But okay. I can say that I've had this thing, like we'd play a gig, say in Florida, 100% humidity outside. We fly right to Chicago. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Right.
The necks don't move because the fretboard is so dense, you're not having to adjust necks a lot on the road. Cool. So this is really cool. And Robert signed it to me. You signed it on the back of the headstock.
Is it, the colors are a little muted from the technology. Is that a gold top or is that like greenish? It's kind of hard to tell.
It's a gold top.
Okay. Yeah, it's a really pretty guitar. Yeah.
Yeah. And I have another one with a Bigsby on it that I use that, just great guitars, man. I'm telling you, people got to get hip to the Godin solid bodies and stuff because it's a really good alternative.
Is that chambered?
It is. It is chambered, but it's not chambered in the way that there's a science.
I don't have a problem with chambering. I'm just asking. My guitar is chambered. It's lighter. I'm happy. I'm 56. I'm not fucking carrying around a 10-pound weight. you know?
The thing about Gibson is, back in the day, Gibson would chamber guitars and paint guitars, like the really dark colors, because they would just use shit wood.
Mm.
Godin uses it's chambered in a sort of way that they resonate correctly, and that's why the guitars are really, really consistent. So
yeah, that's got great acoustic resonance. Just you playing it here through Zoom. Yeah, it sounds pretty good, man.
We'll just pretend it's in tune.
Man, you're a really good player. It was really nice listening to music, and I watched some videos of you. You could just tell you've got zillions of hours behind a guitar neck, man.
Yeah, thanks. I work at it every day. I still love playing the guitar. It's the thing. There's always something to learn, and there's always something to, pass on. Some of my guitar player buddies, we come over and we just play, and everybody's diverse. We don't play the same style, so it's always fun
great.
to share stuff, and keep the ideas flowing. It's fun.
What's the best guitar and amp that you've owned?
I would say there was a big period where my favorite guitars, I have it's a 74 335 Gibson.
Hmm.
And I probably had that thing refretted 7 times. I played.
Oh, you play the shit out of it.
I love that guitar. I really kind of almost cut my teeth on that, as far as, and it was really stable. It really never let me down. So I would say that's probably my all too favorite. That stays in the closet now. I rarely, I take it out and look at it every once in a while. I don't really play it a whole lot anymore.
But you got that 66, I think you said, right behind you.
This one here, this is what kind of got me on that bandwagon, was playing loud rock and roll with a hollow body guitar and a trapeze tailpiece. So
That's a 330. That's a 345 though, no, or 55. Yeah,
yeah, it's got the baritone in it, and I had it rewired to mono at the Gibson factory in Nashville.
Okay. What does that mean? Tell me what that means in English, like a non-electronic talk.
The way this thing initially, let's see if I could get this pointed down a little bit. The way they made them initially, one pickup would go to one amp, the other pickup would go to the other amp.
Oh, okay. Which is totally useless if you have a combo one amp.
Totally useless. Absolutely useless.
Okay.
When I first got the guitar, I thought, well, okay, this is really great. I had one of those, stereo to mono jacks, and it would be sticking out, and it was just really unwieldy. And so the guys at the factory were kind enough to rewire it for me. So
okay,
it's just it works normal, and you got the baritone switch, which
Does that do anything? Because I've read that most people are like, man, it doesn't really.
Most people hate them.
Yeah.
But you can get some almost really kind of nasally, sort of snarky sort of tones out of it. When I did play gigs with this guitar, I never used it.
Yeah.
Leave it in the off position and just go with the pickups. So
that's Freddie King's guitar.
Say again?
I think that's Freddie King's guitar.
One of my idols.
Yeah, me too. He's my favorite King.
I got into this. Yeah, this particular thing.
Beautiful guitar, man.
Love Freddie.
And what would be your best amp you've ever played?
I have an old Marshall that I love. And it's a pretty typical answer, but one amp that I remember that I liked playing through was a Soldano. And it was the SLO, and it was a 100-watt model. And you didn't need to play heavy metal on this amp. You could get. I just remember playing through it a couple of times, and really liking it. And someday I'm going to get one. I'm going to get one back. That's on my list to pick that thing up. You can't hardly travel with them anymore because the airlines and stuff like that. But I remember that being a really, really good amp. I liked it.
Tell me the first record you bought.
Oh my God. I was really thinking about this one too. It was either a Mothers of Invention record or a Steppenwolf record.
That's funny. And you wound up playing with John Kay and Steppenwolf.
and I wound up playing in the band. And that's why I knew the songs when I went into the audition, because I'd
Ah,
listened to them since I was a kid, you know?
gotcha. Man, I love that song, Pusher Man. That's such a great song.
That was fun. I cranked the fuzz tone on for that one. That was fun.
Top three Desert Island Discs, man.
Oh man, 3? Wait. Only for today though, right?
Just for right now. Yeah, you can tell you listen to the show. Just for right, not even today, man. Just for this minute.
All right, for this minute, I'm ready on this one. All right. Liam Gallagher, Why Me, Why Not?
That's first.
Because I saw him open for The Who about, a month and a half, 2 months ago. And there's just something about I just loved it. And anyway, I started listening to the record, and I love the record. I wake up in the morning and hear the songs. Really well-written, textury, very, very nice stuff. And okay, I would go with Thelonious Monk, Monk's Dream.
Wow, I've never heard those two records, let alone in the same, that's pretty eclectic, man.
Man, you listen to this record, I put it on like, when I'm in the shower or something, and you hear Monk play, and it's just like, man, he's coming from a whole different place, and it's happier sort of music too. I like it, and I get to play some jazz gigs around town occasionally, and it's reading gigs, and sometimes we'll play a Monk tune, and it was always on my radar, and that's one record I like in particularly.
Where'd you learn to read? When did you learn to read?
I always took lessons. I was always, and I got to be a pretty good sight reader as well, which, being a rock musician, you really don't need it.
No, but that's probably gotten you some gigs you never would have gotten.
Absolutely.
Sure.
I did a Tony Williams tribute record, and there's a lot of reading, a lot of stuff like that. It's a good skill to have.
Yeah.
It's a good skill to have. And it's not something that I do every day anymore, but it's a good thing. And you got to be able to read rhythms and read charts and stuff. And it's a good skill to have. You got to have it.
Number 3?
Number 3.
Liam Gallagher, Monk's Dream. And
can we do a tie on this one with 2?
Sure, Steve, since you listen to the show.
I'm going to go with the Rival Sons, Feral Roots, their new record. It's a great record. And I got to see them live here in LA. They're fantastic. And I think to tie with that would be Humble Pie, Rockin' the Fillmore.
That's a great record.
Love it.
Cool, man. Thanks. All right. This is your favorite part of the show.
Here we go.
Best decision you ever made?
To sell my car, buy a van, and move to LA.
Yeah, I was thinking you were going to say that was a really good decision, man. I really have a lot of respect for you, man.
That I think worked out to be the best thing for me.
Yeah, I think that was very courageous at 17 to do as well. I really do.
Or real dumb.
No. But you know what? This is what I've learned from all of all musicians. I've learned how important it is to follow your heart, your passion, and the sense of the gift that you give yourself by doing that. And I think it's a really commendable thing. Not because you're struggling to no, it's because you're doing that, man. And I think there's a lot of self-care involved in that. And why not?
It's a double-edged sword too, because you drag somebody into a relationship, and the business is very volatile. I've had some incredibly great years, and I've had some real shit years. Not like anybody else. I mean, it's the same as anybody would work a normal job. So you can tend to be a little bit on the selfish side, because it's kind of self-preservation. So I'm always kind of looking out for that. I think now my older self I try not to take things super personally in the business anymore. because I'm a survivor. I'm still doing it. I'm in
Yeah.
there. So yeah, it's, but you got to follow your thing, whatever that may be. Like I say, nobody's going to do Steve Pfister better than me. So I
But,
want to
but,
do my thing.
but what I notice is there's no, everybody that does that, and I'm noticing this as an outsider. I'm noticing this as a guy who never did that. There's a very firm comfort in that. And I think that is worth more than anything.
Seeing it from the outside, yeah, but of course there's tons of insecurity, if you, which you have to keep at bay. And how I keep that at bay is by good old-fashioned hard work. And making sure that the craft is intact. That if what I'm doing, like the other night, we're rehearsing songs for, basically the trio's not going to probably work until next year. But we're in the room and we're working on these new songs just to see where they're going to go in the set, how they're going to go. But I got to make sure that I'm on point when I'm at rehearsal, because I know my guys are going to be. And
well, yeah, if you're not, if shit flows downhill.
Absolutely. And it's a thing where we can all pick each other up, and nobody phones it in. Life is way too short. It's, play the guitar. Let's just do it.
Yeah. I really have so much. I've learned so much from that, and it's made my life so much better, to be honest with you, because I make decisions differently now than I did 2 years ago. So awesome. Along those lines, most important things you've learned about yourself.
I don't know. I'm pretty determined. I try to stay really focused. I don't like to get too off track. I'm an honest guy. I like to treat others the way I would expect to be treated. That same sort of thing. When I don't get that in return, bye-bye. I don't have a lot of time for like bad egos or dumb shit.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Man, I like that.
So yeah, I would say that, and plus I'm a stubborn motherfucker. So
are you like you're type A pretty much?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Are you anal?
Not as much as I used to be. Yeah. I would like to think I'm more prepared than anal. I like to prepare for things, and not that things would go wrong, but I just try to, keep it between the lanes.
I get that.
And just keep rolling.
This is always a tough question to ask people, man. What do you like most about yourself?
Oh boy. Okay, my haircut.
You know what? You know what's funny? You really need to meet Carmen Grillo. Let me tell you why.
Has he got some good hair?
Yeah, he has great hair, actually. And he answered. I asked him. Funny enough, I asked some of the questions are similar. What do you like about yourself? I like to treat others, do unto others. I like to treat others where I'd like to be treated. What do you like most about yourself? My hair. And he's from Buffalo. Yeah. So I mean, that's funny, man. I can make an intro if you want.
I still got it, so I'm grateful about that. So, anyway.
What are you trying to say about me, Steve? No, I'm just kidding. I'm totally kidding. What about like non-physical attributes? Like, what do you like most about yourself? Non-physical attributes.
Well, geez, Greg, you don't have to worry about anything. Here I
don't. No, I'm totally good with being bald. I'm lucky. I like it. Kind of suits me. Sort of. I'm like in pretty decent shape, so it sort of looks like that Mr. Clean thing. I don't know, but I'm good with it. And like, thank God, because it's not like I have control over it. And I'm not going to do I see a lot of guys when they're losing their hair, they leave it around the head. And I'm like, man, you look like a fucking science teacher or a priest. And like, I don't want that look. I'd rather just, Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
All right. What do you way out? What do you like most about yourself?
Like I said, I just like to be straightforward and, basically take care of business. I don't like a lot of nonsense, and I don't like to waste time. But if things take time to get from A to B or to C, I try to be as patient as I possibly can. I think that's another thing of aging. Experience tells so much that sometimes things don't happen on your timetable that you think.
Yeah, most times. Most of the time, it doesn't happen on the timetable you want.
Can't force it because it's either going to work or it's not.
Mm-hmm. Totally, man. Flip side, if you could change one thing about yourself, what would it be?
I'll probably be a little bit more relaxed. Try not to be as stress oriented. I do a lot of things to keep de-stressed. Like I said, walking, meditation. I got to work at it though to keep it at bay. But that would be the one thing.
Yeah, that's really important, man. I made some changes there a few years back, and it really has helped my life very much.
Right.
Happiest time in your life or happiest moment?
Oh boy. There's been so many good things, but I would have to say right now that the best is yet to come.
Good man. That's awesome.
I think so.
That's really cool.
Like there's been so many great things. And that's the thing about even when you and I were going to get together and talk, it's like I really had to go back in the timeline to think about things because I never think about the past. I'm always going forward. And I get together with my band guys or my close friends and we'll tell stories and stuff, but that's private stuff. I'm always thinking about, well, what are we going to do? What are we going to do with this new record? What are we going to, we going to get this new agency on board? Yeah. Okay. Are we going to do this festival? How are we going to make this whole thing work? I'm thinking, how am I going to push my game forward as opposed to the back? That's why I think the best is yet to come. That's
nice, man. Most important thing your dad taught you? What did your dad do? What kind of work did your dad do? I don't think I asked.
He was a mechanical draftsman.
Oh, yeah, you said that. I'm sorry. You said that. Draftsman, right.
And my dad, I think he instilled in me a strong work ethic. He took care of business. He was a steady rolling guy. And I think if he had any faults, it was that he never wanted to make a mistake. He was kind of a rigid guy.
Man, the apple hasn't fallen far from the fucking tree. I got to tell you, dude. And I don't mean anything negative about it. I mean, it's just funny. You're kind of like that, man. And again, there's no judgment, but that you're like that, man.
Craig, Jesus, now I don't have to go to a psychiatrist. Here we are.
Please, man. No.
I never realized that about my dad, but that was the thing,
Yeah.
It's very, yeah.
How about your mom? Most important thing she taught you?
That's pretty easy, not to take crap from anyone.
That's great.
My mom was very kind, very pretty, very cool lady, and she didn't take no mess. Nobody could really derail her. She was, pretty optimistic, pretty. She had her things, but she's a tough Italian lady, and
that's cool, man.
I dig my mom.
You have any hobbies outside of music? I know you like to do walking. You watch sports.
Love basketball. To watch.
Play? Okay.
Watch, okay. And I like to read. I would say reading, and I've turned into a real big movie fan. I love to go to movies. There's a lot of good stuff out, and it gets me out of the studio for a couple hours, and so I'm a big fan of movies.
A lot of guitar players are, funny enough. Yeah. Hey, man, tell me about a specific experience that changed your life or altered the way you think about things.
I would have to say just getting sick,
Yeah.
And it happens to everybody. At one time in your life, you're going to have one of those kind of crisis things, and
if you're lucky, it's just one time.
Oh, absolutely. Hey, like I said, we're not done yet.
Yeah.
But That was a changer. I think. Yeah, I'm just really grateful that I got through that one, and that I had a real great supporting cast, and because things could have gone hopelessly wrong, and I try not to think about it that way, but
Yeah.
pretty sobering,
Last question, but since you listen to the show, if there's any, before I ask you the last question, are there any questions you really wanted to answer that I didn't ask you?
You didn't ask me about the musical highlights.
Okay, let's do it, man. This is like, I've never done this before, but like, I want you to leave happy, Steve.
Craig, I'm ecstatic. Let me put it to you.
No. Tell me what top 3 experiences you've had musically.
No, I got to think of the stories now. Oh my God. Okay, here's one that I remember. When we played in Jakarta.
Wow, was that with who? With Lita or?
No, with my band, with my trio.
Wow.
Me, Philip, and Sid. We played rockin'. It was a 3-day festival, huge.
Sorry to interrupt. Was any chance Ron Thal on that episode, on that festival with you?
Guns might have played. I'm not sure. The day we played, we were at the Smashing Pumpkins, and I got to think of who other the bands that were on the bill.
Oh, just because he mentioned to me he played Jakarta, and then I'm like, wow, that's not something I hear every day. That's pretty cool.
This is a huge festival. When we went out to do our show, there were 68,000 people, and to play that show and to play my music in front of those people, and I had a memory about that. Is one of the production guys asked me for a set list, and I'm thinking, well, what do you want to hear? Take a set list. So they took a set list. There's a big light curtain behind the stage, and they were putting the names of the songs up as we were playing them.
Oh, that's nice.
And we do this song, which I still get licensing on, and we still have it in the show. It's a song called "She Ain't Lonesome," and there was a pack of Muslim women in front of the stage with burqas on, and we're playing the chorus, and I can see a mouth. She ain't lonesome.
Oh, that was cool, man.
And I'm going. Well, first of all, we're playing, and I can see the light curtain. I can see that they put the name of the song up, because I'm going. Well, either they know the tune or whatever, because they're mouthing the words. That was
that's nice.
That was a very, very fun memory, and the promoter was really great to us, and brought us over to get us on this festival, and it was really cool. And I would think another one was when we did the Satriani tour.
Right.
My trio doing that was a good thing. The records were selling pretty good. Of course, the record company still says that I owe them $6,000, but that's for another show, Craig. We'll get into that.
I've never heard that one before. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, like, it's just prolific.
That's a new one, isn't it?
It's
if the thing's moving up the charts, and they're still saying, we're out there basically playing for a very small fee in merchandising money to get in front of bigger audiences. And hey, it was still great. And it was mucho fun. So those are a couple of really cool ones.
Any other questions you want to answer?
Let me see.
I mean, I appreciate your enthusiasm. I want to make sure I deliver, man. You
are delivering. I would tell you, I was even for this, just to get to talk to you, Craig. It's like, here I'm trying to be prepared, just like I would go on a gig.
Let me tell you something. One time, I'm not gonna tell you who it was. Great guy, pretty well known amongst guitar players. He sent me back the questions with all the answers filled in, like it was an exam. And so we start the call. So, but before we started, I said, "Hey, are you kind of anal?" He goes, "Yeah." How'd you know? I'm like, just intuition. I was like, wow, man, that was impressive and totally unnecessary, of course. But I didn't want someone to think it's an assignment. It's just guidelines.
Well, a lot of times interviews, they'll send you the questions and you write them out, and then they take it.
Oh, because it's like I don't know how people do that. I wouldn't. Cause there's so much more. Like you can't answer. The only way you could do this is if it's a yes or no question, because there should always be some like dialogue. That's what's kind of fun about it. You know what?
You don't get the human element at all. You know what I mean? And that's what's cool about your show, is the fact that you can bring out the stuff in people, and you know.
What's interesting? It's really interesting. Last question, man. Biggest change in your personality? I love this question. It's my favorite question. Over the last 10 years, and how much of that has been intentional, and how much is just a part of aging?
Again, I just try to be a little bit more relaxed about pretty much everything that I do. And it's definitely part of aging, and experience is part of aging. And, you know, I'm grateful that I think I've had a wealth of experience and all sorts of wacky shit and fun stuff that only musicians would understand. You know, the music has its own language, you know, like, doesn't matter, you know, religion or political affiliation. You know, musicians have a thing. And I'm just glad to be part of that ilk. You know, I'm just a musician, you know, and not just a guitar player. I like to do different stuff, and I just think, you know, I just try to be as grateful as I can. And as we all get up there a little bit more and have more experiences, I just try to carry that through, you know, and have, you know, I have a ton of acquaintances and a bunch of really good, close friends. And I'm grateful for all that.
Well, dude, you're not just a musician. You're a very talented musician, man. So let me just fix that. Tell me about the records on your wall, the platinum and gold records, it looks like.
Yeah, those are from the Lita Ford days.
Very cool, man.
You know, I was so happy to be in a big rock band in the 80s, you know?
Yeah, that was it.
And it was a lot of MTV and a lot of that stuff. And it was, I'm glad I had that experience, because a lot of people romanticize about those days. And yeah, it was big business and there was a lot of money and stuff, but I was glad that I got to be in a band that got to enjoy some of that, you know?
Was there a lot less sort of rock and roll-ish behavior in that band because Lita is a woman, versus if in your opinion, I mean, if it was an all guy band?
You know, the cool thing about Lita, she's really was kind of one of the guys.
Okay.
I mean, she's you know, she's been in the business a while even then, and she really knows the ropes, and she worked really, really hard. And there really wasn't much of a difference. Of course, you want to be, you know, somewhat respectable, but you know, she could swear as well as anybody, you know. Okay. And she really didn't take any nonsense. You know, when we're riding in the bus and there'd be like a carload of girls coming by, you know, we'd all be in the front, and they'd hold up a little sign saying, "Well, who are you guys?" And we'd always hold up Whitesnake, you know.
That's great.
That would kind of piss her off a little bit, but other than that,
that's funny as hell.
You know, because, you know, we're rock guys.
You guys, you want to get the girls. I get it, man.
Girl, you know, so
totally get it.
We did, and we really learned a lot, and I learned a lot. It was like getting paid to go to school.
That's awesome.
I was glad for the time.
Dude, let me tell people where to find you and what you're doing and what people can enjoy and take away from you and your talented self. It's Steve Pfister. First of all, Steve's got a pretty cool website at stevepfister.com. A few different things. Steve, first of all, check out his catalog. He's a great player, man. Really talented player, man. And you have your own unique, you know, when you're playing, it's you. It's not anybody else, which is really cool. 10 CDs. You're welcome. Well deserved. All of his CDs are on stevepfister.com. He is on, and go to his social media websites. They're all on his website at stevepfister.com there. And, you know, friend his pages, like his Instagram, and do whatever we're supposed to do on social media. He is available for Skype lessons. He's been teaching forever. If you want to take lessons, this is probably not a bad guy to do it from. He's been teaching since he's 12. So like at least 15, 20 years already. Go to the contact tab on Steve Pfister. He's a very sharp guy, seriously. And just, tell Steve what you're into, what you're doing, and what you're looking for out of lessons. Also, he's doing a ton of remote sessions. So if you check out any of his music and you are interested in having him doing some work on any of your records, get together with him, man. He does a ton of work on remote sessions. He's got a studio right in his place. Also, he's doing a lot of mixing now. Do you want to talk about that?
I just started getting some clients that, they like the way my records sound. So they're saying, well, hey, can you, hook me up? Can you mix this stuff? And I kind of have a little bit of a knack for it, and I enjoy it. So, I've been getting a lot of stuff. People bring tracks to me, or they'll bring stuff, and we'll mix them right here.
That's awesome. Your record was mixed really well. It was very clean, man. Because I listen on like proper speakers.
Oh, cool.
I don't
it's
listen
better than the phone. When you hear stuff on the phone, we mix it for all mediums. And
yeah. Well, I mean, I just like to put a little. I'm old school, so I put a little volume on it when I'm doing stuff that I don't need, and I really enjoyed it. It was really good. It was mixed very well, as a matter of fact.
Much appreciated. Thanks for listening to it. I appreciate it.
Oh, thanks for making it. It was great. I enjoyed it. And so if you're interested in getting working with Steve on mixing, maybe listen to a couple of his records. And if you dig it, again, hit him up on the contact tab of stevepfister.com. And where is your gigs posted when you're out?
They're on the shows page on the website.
Okay,
all the
great.
Stuff right there. And we're putting together, as a matter of fact, dates are coming right now for next year for Europe.
Awesome.
And we have some festival dates in the States. We just played Guitar Town in Colorado.
Very cool. You coming down here, man?
I'd love to.
Nobody comes to Florida, man. I mean, it's just tough to get into. It's so spread out. I mean, I get it, man. I totally get it. It's hard to come in here.
You never know in the next year, though. You never know.
Well, dude, if you come, obviously let me know. That'd be cool to connect. Thank you, man. I really appreciate it. Thanks for listening to the show. I'm glad we got to connect. Thank you for coming on. I really appreciate your time, man. It was very kind of you. And much success in everything you do. And take care of your health, man. I'm glad you're all sorted with that, man.
Likewise, man. Absolutely.
Everybody, thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this, please share it on your social media channels with your friends. Please check out Steve's music at Steve Pfister at stevepfister.com. Skype lessons, remote sessions, mixing gigs, and hit him up on all his social media channels. And he's a very talented guy, and I'm not bullshitting. And thanks, man. Thanks for coming on the show and spending time with me. And most of all, most important, what is most important?
Most important. Wait a minute. Happiness is a choice.
That's right. Remember that happiness is a choice. So choose wisely. Be nice, go play a guitar, and have fun. Till next time, peace and love, everybody. I'm out. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it.